teach the game of football now?
I don't think I can verbalize that. You know, it's funny, we've been doing skill development for a couple of months now, and for a running back, there's a skill set that they can work on. For a receiver, they can run routes. For offensive linemen, they can do their pass sets. Quarterbacks, if you don't have a football in your hand, you know, you're spending a lot of time on drop technique and mental drills. So just to have a football in our hand and to see these guys throw for really the first time I can't tell you how excited I am to see what we have to work with at our fingertips.
Robert, I guess just kind of what jumped out at you about this job and coaching in Tennessee, and secondly, just what's the last week been like? I mean, you got here a week ago, and you got to hit the ground running with spring starting tomorrow.
Well, there are a lot of things that factored into it. You know, obviously, coming to Tennessee, I knew this place had a lot of tradition. One of the storied programs in the SEC. You know, that was definitely appealing. I knew of the guys on the coaching staff. You know, obviously, you always want to associate yourself with guys that are very sharp. You know, guys that know how to win, guys that you respect in the profession, and also the head coach. You know, Coach Jones brought a lot of passion and enthusiasm. When I had a chance to meet him, and then being able to work with the kind of players that wanted to attend University of Tennessee. So there are a lot of things that factored into it that made me and my family want to come join this program. It's been great, from the moment I've been here. You know, it's been a lot of fun working with these guys, and I look forward to working with the kids tomorrow.
Robert, life is funny how it takes twists and turns, and here you are. You played here, you know, for Florida, and now you're coming back coaching for Tennessee. Talk about that and actually coaching the team that you played against on Neyland Stadium.
You know, it's definitely exciting. You know, like you said, you never know where life's going to take you. But I've always respected Tennessee. You know, I played some of my toughest, most competitive games, the most competitive moments against this university. So to get the opportunity to come here and coach and be a part of it is definitely amazing. I mean, it's fun. You know, like I said, I can't wait to get out there and coach these kids out here in the stadium.
Robert, when will you get into the checkerboard end zone?
You know what? I guess the first time I'll get in it will be as a coach. You know, as a player, it was tough to get in there. You know, I played against some really good defenses, and I know Coach is going to get these guys just as fired up and get them back to where they should be. So, you know, it's definitely, one of those things as an opponent, you want to get into that end zone. And something you never forget, you know. So definitely I'm excited about being here, motivating guys to get in that zone and being a part of a group of guys that are going to be just as motivated to keep opposing offenses out of it.
You almost did in 1998. What do you remember about that game?
It's funny you say that. I mean, Coach Jones was in my office the other day, and I told him that story. I mean, that's something that sticks with you. You know, that's something that you never forget, those moments. You know, I'm a true freshman. Al Whistle and those guys, you know, you guys go on to win the national championship, and I'm a freshman, and I get thrown in the game, and, I had a chance to make a play, and it was a big play. But on the next play after I came out, they put in a senior, and he fumbles on the next play. And I never forget it. You know, I felt bad that when I had a chance to make a play and score, I didn't. You know, so again, that's just things you never forget. But it's funny you brought that up, and hopefully that's the last time we talk about it.
Mike, you said you haven't got the quarterbacks with football in their hands yet, but your initial impressions of them just from their work habits, work ethic, and conversations with them?
They've done a great job. In the meeting rooms, they're very intelligent. They're very hardworking. They've attacked what we've been able to do together, whether it's our skill development sessions on the field, in the meeting room, in the weight room. I've seen their bodies change. They have the mentality that we're looking for.
Mike Worley obviously has had a big edge in terms of actually being on the battlefield. Is that advantage evident in what little involvement you've had so far, or is that something that would only show up in the heat of battle?
I think that's something that shows up in the heat of battle. You know, Nathan is a very smart guy, and he's done a great job of grasping the offense, and so has Justin. So it'll be interesting to see what they do on the field.
Were you involved with recruiting Nathan at Cincinnati?
Very much so.
What did you like about him?
For us, it starts with character. In the recruiting process of any player, offensively, defensively, it starts with character. And Nathan demonstrated a very strong character. He's a man of faith. He did well academically. All those things that go into evaluating a player were evident in Nathan. Then you watch his performance on the field, and you're able to see a guy that processes information, gets to different reads in his progression, can make all the throws on the field. So I'm pretty familiar, based on high school video, and I need to make sure I make that point. Based on high school video, I'm pretty familiar with what Nathan has been able to do.
John, are you concerned about the team's speed on defense? Do you think some of what happened last year was a byproduct of trying to learn a new system?
You know, whenever you have a breakdown like that, there's a lot of factors that go into it. The kids have been extremely positive with the things that we're doing, and I want to build on that. And we're a work in progress right now. We're going back, transitioning back to the 4-3, and we've moved some guys around. We're trying to get more speed on the field. We know that's a factor, but we are what we are right now. We just got to continue to win each and every day and get better from day one to day two, and so on and so forth. So we know that we got a lot of work to do, but we're excited about it. We got a great group. They're very positive. They got a great attitude, and we're starting to get some good leadership. Starting to see some things come around. So it's exciting.
You think, are you where you want to be speed-wise on defense?
I don't know if you ever feel if you have enough speed. That's just part of being a coach. I don't know. You always. It's your job to critique and coach, and so I never, I don't know if you'll ever feel if you have enough speed.
What about Brent Brewer you think makes him a good fit to be linebacker?
Well, I think Brent has a lot of great athletic ability. Certainly, you're talking about speed. That's an opportunity for us to get more speed on the field, taking a safety and moving him to linebacker. The thing that I've been so impressed with about Brent is his attitude. He's very professional, very businesslike, just very consistent from what I can see so far. And I'm excited to see what he can do at the linebacker position.
John and Mike both. How eager has this team been to buy in? I think you guys talked back in December, early January. When you guys were recruiting, they were asking to watch film, and you guys, we have to be out on the road. Just how eager has this whole team been to jump in, especially after the lack of success they've kind of had the last 2 years?
Yeah, I think eager is a great word. I think they're very eager. I think they just want to win. They're like, Coach, just tell us what we need to do. They're very coachable. They've got a good attitude, and they're putting forth, great effort in everything that they do. And you can see that when it's a strength and conditioning coach or a position coach or a coordinator, or even, Coach Jones, they're going to try and do it how we're asking them to do it, and that's exciting for us. We as coaches feed off that as well. Mike, anything you want to add?
Same thing. It's evident that they want to win, and we talk about developing a standard of excellence, and for them, they've embraced that standard of excellence. And again, the next step is what they do on the field. But in terms of establishing their identity, doing what we ask of them, we told them when we first came here, hey, we're going to ask you to do things differently. And they haven't questioned anything, ever. That gets me excited. I get pumped to be around them, and it's an infectious attitude.
Coach, it can be overwhelming. What's the transition been like for you guys coming here to a program like Tennessee?
The transition, you mean from just a overall?
Getting settled in and everything from the on-field, off-field, everything's
Sure.
getting set up.
Okay.
Did you get settled in already?
No, I'm not settled in yet.
That's part of the
I know Mike is. His family is here, and that's exciting.
Sure is. In all aspects of your life, it's funny. I just moved into a house yesterday. I woke up this morning and remembered, hey, we have the press conference. Well, I had to find a coat and a tie amidst all these boxes. I'm pulling paper and stuffing out of boxes. In this profession, I don't know if you ever feel settled. You could work 24 hours a day and always feel behind. But the attitude of the players has been great, and that helps in the transition. The fan base has been phenomenal. That helps in the transition. The chemistry of the coaching staff, that helps in the transition. So, all those things have made this transition a lot easier than maybe in some other situations if you're the new guy. But again, I know I listened to Coach Jones earlier when he talked about what we were looking for in Robert. Again, the same thing we were looking for in a player is the same thing we're looking for in a coach. A guy that's of strong character, a guy that is going to bring something to the meeting room from a personality standpoint, a guy that we want to be around. And it didn't take me long to see about Coach Gillespie that's a guy that we want to be around.
Coach Gillespie, what are the most important traits that you look for in a running back?
You know what? Obviously, you want a variety of different things. You want different kinds of backs that can do different things, especially in an offense like this where it's multiple skill sets that'll be involved. But the base fundamentals, you want guys that are great protectors, guys that can protect the two most important things on the football field. You want to be able to protect the quarterback first and foremost, and then also protect the football. You have to be you have to take pride in being a ball carrier and protecting the quarterback. The next thing, you just want guys that have to be tough. Guys have to be tough football players because we're going to ask them to do things that are tough. You have to block guys that are bigger than you. You got to protect the football when everybody on the defense wants the ball from you, and you just got to have a passion for playing football. And I think those are all things that you find out about a kid during the recruiting process, and even now with the players that are here. These guys have been doing a great job coming by, spending time with me, getting to know me. They've been very receptive in the meeting rooms. So once we get out there on the field, I'll learn some things about them, but I won't truly learn everything there is to know about these guys until we put the pads on. I think different positions, you can learn different skill sets, receivers, quarterbacks, but you learn about what your running back is when he puts his pads on. Does he understand how to get the tough yards? How does he protect the football in traffic? So I'm excited for practice tomorrow, but I'm really excited for day 3, 4, 5 when the pads come on.
Coach Jancek, when you're coming into a situation like this from ground zero, where do you come down on installation, where throw everything at him, or work on something one day, make sure we've got it on day 2, and then install the next thing? How do you approach that?
The thing that we have to understand is we got to teach these guys how to play football, and it's creating the expectations, holding them accountable to those standards, and really just teaching them how to play football. The scheme will come. If we put in a pressure and we don't put one in for 3 other practices, the rule base should be the same. It shouldn't be something completely different. You should be able to install and have a rule set that you're going to follow for the future, and that's really what we're doing. So we're not worried about putting a lot of things in. We're worried about coaching fundamentals. We want to coach effort. We want to coach the details of each and every position, and then obviously just get these guys understanding what it takes to win, and that's really what we're going to focus on.
Without getting too deep into next year, is your experience, or last year, is your experience with the guys, everybody, confusion and that kind of thing was such a buzzword here last year.
Sure.
The experience that they went through with that, influence how you approach spring with it?
Yeah, well, you always have to consider the players and their perspective. It's going to be their package. They have to execute it. They have to own it, and that's what we're working on. And I think to have a system of defense that is easy to understand, it has rules so that when things come up that aren't expected, offense maybe does something different, they can follow and play by rule, and you have easy adjustments. And there are you got to let them play, and that's what I think they're experienced last year. There you can see some guys running on late and not getting lined up, things like that. But we have a lot of work to do in a lot of areas, and it's just really exciting because the players, they're just eager and they want to do what it takes.
Mike, all the talk obviously is about who's going to be the quarterback and all those things, but when you look at this offense, so much production gone from a year ago. Where are you with what you see, the skill set of your playmakers or the development of that as you start spring? What do you think of your playmakers?
Again, it's hard to evaluate in the situations we've been in so far this winter. Again, not being able to use a football, it's hard to see who can make a guy miss, who can break tackles, who can catch. And when I look back on video, it's not like a lot of the guys that will be on the field, in particular on the perimeter, are getting a lot of snaps from last year. So I can't give you a strong sense of our playmaking ability, and that's something, we have a pretty good sense now of their athletic ability from our winter conditioning and our skill development sessions. As we get into spring football and into training camp, we'll have a much better sense of their playmaking ability.
Does that make you, are you more nervous about that end of it than the quarterback end of it? Because there's...
I'm not. We have playmakers. We just need to identify them, and we need to figure out what they do well. And once we do that, then we need to put them in a position to make plays. So it's not magical schemes. Earlier Coach Jones was talking about a standard of excellence and establishing an identity, and toughness was the word he used. We're going to hang our hat on being a tough offense. That's going to be our identity. We're going to be physical and tough, and we're going to play fast. And when you talk about establishing a standard of excellence, we're going to play with great effort and great tempo. As it relates to practice and install, we're not going to throw a ton of stuff at them because we have to establish that standard of excellence of what we want at practice. We want to play with an effort level that they're not used to. We want to play with a tempo that they're not used to. So when we master those two things, now we'll start to add volume. We'll figure out who the playmakers are, who can make plays in controlled, chaotic situations and under stressful situations.
Have you encountered this type of situation before in your coaching career? You've not only had to replace the quarterback, but also had to lost this much talent in the receiving corps?
Last season at the University of Cincinnati, we lost 3 offensive linemen. We graduated a quarterback who was extremely, extremely productive, 2 senior wide receivers, and a senior tight end. And we went into the season, into spring ball in particular, and tailback. Did I not mention the tailback? Yeah. The tailback, who was the offensive player of the year in that conference. So we went into spring ball, and I'm constantly asking the staff. It's a drill we go through every 3 or 4 days. Hey, who are the top 3 playmakers in our offense? And we list them. I ask each coach, and we list them. Okay. Then we try to figure out, and it's constantly changing based on their performance on the field. But once we get a better feel for that, now that what the offense will look like will take shape. I'll give you an example. Travis Kelce at the University of Cincinnati last year was a guy who hadn't shown that he could be productive. We had an inkling that he had the ability to do that, and his production continued to become more prevalent as the season wore on because it was evident that that's a guy we need to get the ball to. So we're familiar with the task at hand, and I'm not anticipating any problems in identifying those guys.
Coach Gillespie, Coach Jones had good things to say about your recruiting abilities. What do you think makes you a good recruiter?
Winning, obviously I've been able to associate myself with some really good programs and some really good coaches, and that's one of the things, obviously being at a place like Tennessee, the place sells itself, the history and the traditions, and also being able to come work for a head coach like Coach Jones, it's going to allow me to be able to go into homes and sell parents and sell kids that you're going to come and learn how to become a man under Coach Butch Jones's watch. I'm going to be able to go in there and sit down with a defensive player and tell them about the moral standards that our defensive coaches have, a quarterback, and tell them about Coach Jake, so, I get a chance to go and meet kids and evaluate kids, but, I think what really sells kids that I sell are the people that I'm able to work with and the programs that I've been associated with, to be honest.
So to follow up on that, Coach, you said that you had a really good reputation with several high school coaches that he talked with. Why do you think that is? Why do you think you've made that sort of impression on the high school coaches that you've dealt with?
A lot of the times, a lot of the kids that you recruit, the coaches are the biggest part of their lives. So you really have to take time to get to know those coaches, because in the critical moments, at the end of the process, those kids are going to look to someone, and you have to find out who that person is. And a lot of times, it is the high school coach. That's the person that they trust and believe in. So, I just think you just have to treat people the right way. You have to get to know them, and you have to make them trust that if they send their kid to you, that you're going to take care of them for the next 4 or 5 years.
Robert, when you were at West Virginia, you guys played Cincinnati and some of these guys back in 2011. What do you recall about that game and from being kind of in the conference with them for a year? What jumped out at you about Butch Jones and his program?
Well, there's still some sour feeling about that game. I won't say who won the game, but you know what? We went into that game respecting the style of football that Cincinnati played. Their defense. Everybody, at the end of the play, there were 11 guys in the picture. On offense, same deal. There were 11 guys in the picture. And as a coach on the other side of the field, you respect those guys. And now that I'm here, I'm able to see it on tape. And they play with maximum effort. At times, they did a lot with a little. And the exciting thing is here that we have more to work with. We can get these kids to understand the standard that we want them to play at, the Tennessee standard. If we can play that way with these kind of athletes, we have a chance to win a championship here. So that's the exciting part.
Coach Jake, with the accountability, is there accountability with the guys that you're replacing on the perimeter, given what those guys did last year, the Pattersons, the Rogers, the Hunters? Do you think that helps the mindset of the guys that you're inheriting?
Well, as much as the guys from last year, it's the tradition of the position and of the program. We are constantly educating our guys on the fact that this is wide receiver you. So every time you step out on that field and practice in a game for this offense, you're representing not just the name on your jersey and the University of Tennessee, but you're representing the long line of great receivers that have played before here. And you know, we'll have a lot of guys back, former Vols back for practice, and I think it's exciting for our players to be able to see those guys coming back and understand the tradition that is a part of that position.
Jancek, you got a couple of midterm guys, junior college guys that you got a chance to see run around, or do you like what you see out of those junior college defensive backs and what you think they might be able to do in the spring?
Yeah, I do. Riyad's done a really good job. He's been very consistent. He's eager to learn, like a lot of the guys. He's fit in. And we're excited about those guys. And you know, the thing that I keep talking to the defense about, you know, and there's a lot of questions about install and how fast are we going to progress and you know, all those things. The thing that I keep talking to them about is we're trying to develop our habits and making sure that our habits are in line, because at the end of the day, when at the moment of truth, our habits will eventually define us. So we got to make sure that we're doing things right. We're going to take our time with the defense and the things that we're putting in, and just, you know, like I said, teach them football, teach them how to play, and work on those habits every day.
Coach Jake, when you talk about, Justin was asked earlier about his ability to run, and he said, I'm not maybe the best runner out there. How do you manage maybe two quarterbacks for that different style? I know you did that at Cincinnati. What's the challenge when you're installing the new stuff of, you know, it's run, you know, one quarterback's a better runner than the other? How do you manage those guys in a competition standpoint?
The reality of the position is, first and foremost, they need to be able to throw the football. You know, what we put on their plate in the pass game is the most important thing. So that's where we start. So more than anything, they need to be able to complete, manage the offense like Coach Jones talked about, put the ball in the hands of the playmakers that we've identified, and complete the football. I mean, that's the bottom line. Their ability with the ball in their hands, that's secondary. And like you said, we've been able to be successful with different quarterbacks of different abilities, but the reality is they got to be able to throw the football around. Given
their differences in their skill sets, how important will it be to have a quarterback established as a starter, when you're pre-gaming, you're game planning for Austin Peay?
It won't be that important. Again, the most important thing is, if you were to ask me, let's say one is great at the short and intermediate game and the other has a very strong skill set in the vertical game, then it'd become an issue, okay? I'd rather have quarterbacks with the ability to make all the throws on the field than what it relates to with their running ability. Again, even when we've had dynamic runners in this offense, I still want to make sure that we're managing that part of the game, and we don't want to necessarily put them in adverse situations, and I don't want to make even if you had the most dynamic quote unquote dual threat in the world, okay, if he's carrying the ball 20-25 times a game, well, that how many games is he going to make it through? So it's not a big concern.
Anybody else?